Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And I am here with an unbelievable guest, someone you're really going to be excited to meet. It is the one, the only Dr. Eric Holsapple. He is a successful developer and entrepreneur who has used mindfulness to transform his life and business and help others do the same. Eric has a PhD in economics and has been a real estate CEO and developer for nearly 40 years. He has lectured real estate at the Colorado State University for 20 years and practiced yoga and meditation for 30 years. This all comes together in a unique perspective on how merging business and mindfulness can be a catalyst in changing lives. Eric is the founder of Living in the Gap, and his popular workshops teach CEOs and professionals a different way to operate more mindfully while improving the bottom line. Well, Eric, again, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you here. I'm wondering if you could kind of take us back a little bit. Where did all of this come from for you? What ultimately led you to pulling together these worlds of business and mindfulness and ultimately chronicling the two in your new book?
You know, you go back, I mean, in my 20s, I was really successful in business almost from the start. I was a CEO in my, mid-20s, traveling all the time. And I reached that hierarchy of success, the six-figure salary, the Mercedes, the apartment, all those things, but I just wasn't healthy, happy, or satisfied with it. And I was overweight quite a bit, and I just said, geez, make some changes. You're not going to be around very long. So I started on it. I think the first thing that happened was I stumbled onto yoga. And that was my first entry into mindfulness. I was an athlete. I hadn't been, doing athletic things for quite a while because I was just working. But I got back into that, and that really was the first entry into it. And just one thing from there led to another. I have an older brother that was pretty estranged from my dad. My dad was a football coach. My older brother was a poet. And poets were like oil and water. And they were kind of estranged. And my older brother took up meditation. And I just watched him come back to the family, just come back and open up to my dad. And they, started talking again. He said, "You want to try it?" And I said, "Sure." So I tried it, and I had immediate results with it. But for years, I was what I'd call a closet meditator. I didn't come out. I just did it on my own. I did a yoga practice and meditation for, 10 years or so before I even really mentioned to anybody what I was doing. Later, people started noticing that I worked with and said, what are you doing? And I just started sharing with them a little bit. And I also became somebody who could slow down and talk to them a little bit because I was pretty fired up, hard charging, 100-mile-an-hour guy. Oh, and there, one thing led to another from there as we outlined, we rolled out the program on our own company, and later I rolled it into a workshop, and then from there into a book.
Wow. So break it down for us. What does being a mindful leader mean?
In a business context, I think the one word that really boils it down is focus. Focus on what we're doing, who we're doing it with, why we're doing it. We just have so many distractions that we have. I mean, we try to run meetings with the, iPads open and even with phones on and different things. And if I had to boil it down one word, it's just, can I focus? And so at our programs, what we're going to do is, can I focus at work? And then can I turn that off? And when I go home, can I focus at home and not have that constant draw back into checking my phone when I'm supposed to be, having dinner or being with a family? Focus, I think, is a word that is really appropriate for business.
And I think that's a really powerful world for connecting those two realities because, and maybe this has been your experience, but it's certainly been mine. You start talking about mindfulness and automatically woo-woo filters go up. It's like, it's just, there's this kind of almost automatic turnoff in a lot of business environments. Why do you think that is?
I love that word because I really think, this current state of the world, divided, distracted, unable to move things forward, an important objectives is what woo-woo is. And mindfulness is focused. I think it's because we're really good. Business is really good at getting our attention. And every little slice of our attention, started with subliminal advertising, has worked its way up to social media and every little slice of our attention is trying to be grabbed. And we're the ones grabbing. I mean, I try to do it in my business. How do we grab somebody's attention?
Yeah.
And the only way to get it back is for you to put your own stake in the ground and say, no, I'm going to control my own attention. I'm going to control where it goes. And when it goes there, well, I don't know. I think it's just a state of success in some ways that we're so good technologically and at advertising and selling things. But we have to put up some defense systems to be able to actually live a life of peace.
Yeah. I catch myself wondering about this often, but I wonder how our brains can continue to keep up with the pace of information being sent in their direction, right? It just feels like it's a constant onslaught. And it kind of brings me to the question, folks listening to this podcast probably listen to dozens of other podcasts. There's probably all kinds of information coming in. They're probably finding about 9 million things they should be doing. How do they know that pursuing mindfulness is the thing that they should be doing? How do they know it's right for them?
I think you have to experience it, try it on. First of all, are you ready? Are you feeling like, the people I find that get the most are people that are fairly successful, but they just aren't as satisfied, or they're or relaxed or stressed than they think they should be. So I think it's looking at your current life and saying, is this okay? Is this, if this never gets any better, if this is my life, is it okay? And if it's not, then I suggest, particularly if you already have some of the outer successes, I suggest more of an inner journey to see, can I find a different way to view these things? Because our problems aren't usually what happens. It's what we think about them.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer, health problems, death, divorces, bankruptcy, all of these things happen to us and to others all around us. It's just part of life. But how do we view them? Are we viewing everything as a catastrophe? Or can we start to view them as just these are just the bumps in the road to life?
You said for you that yoga brought immediate results. What did that look like?
Well, I was an athlete, and I love skiing, I love golf, I love these things, and I had gotten away from it a bit, but when I found, it just taught me how to experience my body, how to be in my body. There's a guy named Ken Robinson that wrote a really good book called The Element, but he used to say that, our bodies just become something that carries our head from meeting to meeting. But I find that the biggest immediate escape from that tyranny of thought is to be in our body. When our focus or our attention goes down into our body, our thoughts slow down. They're going to go somewhere, but then they have a hard time being more than one place at once. So if our attention is in our head, it actually makes it busier. If our attention is in our body, or perhaps on another person or what we're doing, thoughts slow down. We become engrossed and present with what we're doing. So it's it's very important in the process to start to evaluate yoga. It doesn't have to be yoga. There's a lot of different things you can do, but to experience, being able to place your consciousness in different places, and particularly firstly into your body, is huge, I think, on the road.
Yeah, that's so good. So you've got a book out called Profit with Presence, and in it you outline 12, I think you call them pillars of mindful leadership. Is that right?
Yes.
So let's imagine you're on a boat and you know that this boat is going to get stuck on a desert island. And let's just imagine that these 12 pillars are 12 people. Which 3 people would you bring with you if that's all you could fit on the boat, so that you could, run your business, I guess from a sat phone? I don't know how you'd run your business from a desert island, but run your business, live your life as best as possible. What 3 would you bring along?
The first 3 pillars are foundational. They're, be present and practice mindfulness, identify your purpose in life, and find vision, purpose, commitment, intention, and habits. Those 3, the rest of them are really different mindset tools, pillars 4 through 12, gratitude and some things that we can do in that. But really, the start is to experience present and have it's usually anything of worthwhile has some practice involved to it. Formal meditation is one. That's not for everybody. There's some other options. It is really In the heavy professional world or busy professional world, it's some of the other things like time in nature is difficult. So I think meditation for a lot of people is going to be the most accessible, but a lot of people resist it. So I try not to say it has to be, but for busy people, it can be one of the most impactful. And also, I think people don't realize, we start people with 2 minutes of meditation. You build up to 10. That's a substantial practice. It doesn't have to be a half an hour sitting, because actually I found if you sit too long with it in the beginning, it's counterproductive. You just get discouraged. A few minutes, and once you get you want a little more. Plus, you get more efficient in other things, so you have more time. And then second would be identify your purpose in life. Just why are you doing what you do? What is what's the underlying thing? And at different times in life, that might be different. In my 20s, it was to make money, and to be successful. In my 30s, it was to, start a family, in different times. And now it's been more, how do I share mindfulness practices and try to help, business community operate a different way? So it may change over time, but it's pretty important to look in and say, okay, what's just really driving me right now? Mm-hmm. Really came out of teaching at the university and meeting with a lot of seniors. Why are you here? Well, I don't know. Mom and dad said they'd pay for it if I studied business or engineering, and I chose business. I'd say, well, next thing is, job, wife, house, responsibilities. You wake up, kids, you wake up and you're 50. Spend a little time figuring out why you're here, because we spend so much time at work. And if you can find employment where you have a purpose, it just gets a lot easier. So it's worth spending some time on that. And then vision. Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. We can actually, vision things. Some people are familiar with the sports. It can be done in business too. And it can be done at home. You can actually use visualization techniques. And then finally, I just end with part of that is habits. We are our habits. Spend some time, watching yourself, calendaring your time. When they say something like 95% of our time is just the next habitual thing that we do. Our intentional actions are like 5%. So if we can form those habits to be consistent with our vision, then those things work even when we're offline or working with, subconsciously. Or alternatively, often the subconscious is sabotaging us. What we think we want and say we want is inconsistent with our habits. So if habits and our commitments and vision are inconsistent, it's really difficult to make a lot of progress because we go backwards a lot.
So true. It's so true. So, Eric, there's a question I like to ask all my guests, and it is this. What would you say is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
Yeah, I would say it's that, mindfulness doesn't mean not making money or not making profit or sacrificing that. Mindfulness just means there's a different way to do it. It can be more effective than just we've got busy down. In America, we've got busy, and running and stressed down, but it can just make us a lot more focused. And making money has to be okay in a capitalist society. So it isn't like just not doing that. It's just finding a different way to do it. Different way to be in business, a different way to I call it profit with presence.
Yeah. So good. So good. So where can folks, they're hearing this, they're in that state, they've had some success, but it's just not checking the boxes like they thought they'd like. Where can they find more out about your book and even connect with you?
On our website, livinginthegap.org. And also the book's available, Profit with Presence, The 12 Pillars of Mindful Leadership, on Amazon.
Fantastic.
Either way.
Eric, yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll put both those links in the show notes for anyone listening. Go ahead and grab a copy of it. Highly recommend it. Appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for being here, Eric. And for those of you watching and listening, your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.